What is a legal scam that is still happening in 2022? Printing fee for digital tickets, especially when you have to print them at home with your own printer, paper, and ink. Don't tell that to HP and their printer subscription service with ink cartridges that get deactivated if you unsubscribe. Ticketmaster. What the hell is a handling fee when I am the one handling my own phone? Convenience fee. What convenience? When someone explained to me that a convenience fee is not for inconveniencing the salesperson but rather a fee you pay for the convenience of their service, I realized it was a scam. Why the hell would you charge a fee for being convenient? Would your service not ideally be inherently convenient? Congress officials being allowed to trade stocks. This on so many levels. I worked for a large accounting firm in the US. It was IT for the S&P basically. My dad and mother-in-law could not hold stocks in certain businesses while I worked there, but Congress can buy and sell on anything they are making laws about. Civil servants working in sensitive areas literally cannot hold stocks in those industries. How Congress can do so makes no sense at all. That all of the government gets lumped into the corruption at the elected officials is infuriating. MLMs. I'm my own CEO. No, you aren't. You literally have a company telling you what you can and can't do. Imagine starting a company where you take responsibility for all of the expenses, but get none of the revenue. Look, OP, if you want to get in on some legal scam, you have to do your own research. That's why I recommend you buy my book, What You Can Do to Legally Become Rich in 12 Easy Lessons. Just 24 easy payments of $199.99, and you will have the secrets to being a millionaire unveiled right before your eyes. My personal testimonial of this. I'm not a big reading person, but when I picked up What You Can Do to Legally Become Rich in 12 Easy Lessons, each lesson was only a paragraph long and used words even I could understand. I'd highly recommend this book. I'm so dedicated to this book that I even signed up to be their affiliate to save you 20% off your purchase. Use my promo code at checkout. Whoa, 20% is such a huge amount of savings. I know that you only have 7 affiliate spots, and so I'm so thankful that I got your last spot. Because I'm such a team player though, I will be giving a 20% discount to the next 7 affiliates that sign up with me. Get this book now and you too can legally become rich like us. If debt collectors can trick a grieving person into uttering words that imply that you take responsibility for your dead relative's debts, that can be treated as a binding oral contract and allow them to collect from you. I've gotten a lot of replies saying this is unenforceable in pretty much any jurisdiction. They just make you believe that's the case, so that they can increase the pressure on you to pay. Don't give them a dime and go talk to a lawyer. You should do that anyway before following legal advice from someone who may not even be in your country. In my country, you legally can't inherit debt. Can't believe that's not the norm everywhere. All creditors must share whatever is left in the estate. You can't inherit debt in the US either, but that doesn't stop them from trying. If they get you to say that you're responsible for the debt, they'll say that constitutes a legal contract and you have to pay it now. Or if they get you to make a small payment toward it, same thing. Very shady. Civil forfeiture. If you're going to tell me a cop thinks that my property might be used for illegal activity, and that cop is going to steal it from me and pad their department's bottom line, what the actual hell? Enough people don't know about this, unless you're one of the victims it happens to. Then you're like, what the hell, the police just robbed me. The average person probably doesn't carry a lot of cash on them at once. So people probably just don't think about it. Choosing to carry a large amount of cash on your person is considered probable cause for illegal activity, and allowing the cops to seize it without due process is one of the most broken things about our system. Everyone that knows what it is thinks it's bullcrap whether they love or hate the current state of policing in the US, yet it sticks around. Title pawns, payday loans, some charging 300% interest. Payday loans are illegal in some states. I know they are in West Virginia. I know a few of them are on Native American reservations because of state law. Paying service charges. I don't mind paying a $10 delivery fee, but I will not pay a 99-cent service charge. Yeah, to hell with DoorDash. Sweet, free delivery. Wait, a $7 service charge? And I'm tipping on top of that? No. You see, the service charge was for DoorDash. The delivery guy never sees a cent of that. We probably took a third of the food's costs out of the restaurant's profits too. Aren't we a helpful and convenient service? Televangelists like Joel Osteen. On that note, churches not paying taxes. It's completely unacceptable and really disgusting. I cannot imagine tithing to a church with a pastor who has big houses and a private jet and luxury cars. The troubled teen industry. It doesn't work. It traumatizes children. It's legal kidnapping. I hope more attention comes to it and something happens. They're a business and the goal is to make money, not help troubled teenagers. Half the time, the kids aren't even troubled. The troubled teen industry refers to for-profit organizations aimed at steering rebellious and at-risk youth onto a better path through reform camps, but their methods are tough love, negative/positive punishments, and physical labor. Because it's a business meant to make money, a lot of corner cutting happens. They hire young and untrained staff for less pay rather than therapists and certified nurses/teachers. It's also not regulated at all, so they can effectively do whatever they want with little recourse. They use scared straight tactics and beat kids into obedience. They claim the best way to send a kid there is by surprise, so they don't try and run beforehand, aka burst into their room at 2 a.m. and drag them into a van with very few belongings. Look up Elan School for a notorious one. Paris Hilton was kidnapped at 2 a.m. and sent to Provo Canyon when she was 16. Look at how well that worked. Go through this thread for some horror stories. I went to one of those places in the 1990s, in Utah, where those schools are really popular because apparently they have very lax child protection laws. They had all these brochures showing kids on horseback and swimming on an estate with sweeping green lawns like Professor Xavier's school. LOL, no, the real facility was an old church that had been converted into dorms. Girls had a series of shared attic rooms, boys had the ground floor. The school wasn't even a school. We had to basically teach ourselves from textbooks while sitting at desks set up on a basketball court at night. They'd have one teacher there, but they didn't teach. They just gave us tests and monitored us. They had solitary confinement that they'd use if you got in trouble, which they called the ISU, or Intensive Supervision Unit. I saw all sorts of messed up crap there. One of my most vivid memories is that they brought in a new kid who was a heroin addict. Instead of getting him medical treatment for withdrawal, they threw him in the ISU and basically just made him sweat it out all week with no help. The ISU was right outside the female dorms, so we could hear his yells and crying echoing around day and night. It was horrific. As an adult, I handle prison litigation and have seen multiple in-custody deaths caused that way. Heroin withdrawal isn't itself lethal, but can cause death from secondary symptoms like extreme dehydration or blood loss from esophageal tearing. The kid could have died. He sounded like he was dying sometimes, but that's the type of crap that they get away with at these places. I've also heard of them refusing to give people their high school transcripts years later. There has been some litigation about that. I have so many stories. I googled them. They are still operating, and their website shows a picture of this huge, elegant building, which is absolutely not the real place as their address hasn't changed. Looks like they're still at it. The Utah legislature passed laws in 2021 to begin to rein in some of these horrible practices. Paris Hilton came out to testify in favor of the bills. Having to file your own taxes and then being fined if you don't do it right. As many pointed out, the IRS doesn't know all of it, but they know enough for the average person. Companies shouldn't be allowed to lobby to keep the process convoluted, and there shouldn't be such a large industry around tax prep. Seconded. The fact that there is a huge industry around helping you do your taxes is a red flag. If doing your taxes right is too taxing and complicated, then the Fed should provide a free TurboTax equivalent. There is a free software that can be found on the IRS website. Private prisons. You're telling me that they charge the government for the beds and the taxpayers still gotta foot the bill if those beds are empty so the company running it doesn't lose money? What a lot of people don't seem to understand is that prisoners are literally slaves. The text of the 13th Amendment is literally neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. When someone is convicted of a crime, the government strips them of all their liberty and sells them to a private company, and that company is then allowed to force them to work, which the company can profit off of without fairly compensating them for their labor. Yes, sometimes they get paid chump change, which they can only spend at the company's store for luxuries, such as communicating with their loved ones, but they do find a lot of ways to get out of providing any compensation at all. It is state-sanctioned slavery. Charging for parking in hospitals and clinics. Also charging people money to withdraw money or because they have small positive balances in their bank accounts. Additionally, charging patients in hospitals for TV service. Their bills are high enough, but you want to add $8 a day to not have to sit in silence for 23 hours a day? News in America is entertainment. can get away with saying pretty much anything and call it news. It frustrates me how normal weasel words are in newscasts these days and how many people can't distinguish them easily. New study shows that there may be a link between eating M&Ms and your hair color. Yeah, that also means it may not, but that doesn't get views. Sadly overplayed, but health insurance. Just yesterday, there was a post about a guy who had medically necessary surgery and the insurance didn't want to pay the hospital. Pay us every month and we'll cover things like healthcare, car accidents, and other things that just happen in life to make sure you're protected. Thing in life happens. Yeah, we ain't gonna pay crap on any of that, but keep paying us our absurd monthly rates, or you might be screwed if something should happen. Cable company making you rent a router for $10 a month. That should be illegal. Check if you can get your own. My local company allows me to use my own router and/or modem. The only downside is if anything goes wrong, they won't check it because it must be your equipment. It's possible, but you must often buy a very specific model of router that they support. Getting information about what model of router they support is often like pulling teeth. They do everything possible to force you to rent. If you're a personal business owner, you may receive what looks to be a bill in your mail from the US Domain Authority. At first glance, you're under the impression that you need to pay $289 to renew your website domain name. However, there is a very fine print stating that you are not legally required to pay the listed amount. It's actually an ad requesting that you pay that amount in order to have your website listed on the US Domain Authority site. I can't imagine how many people have been tricked by this. Read your mail carefully. Timeshares. I figured Airbnb and VRBO and all other temp rental disruptors would have put a stop to this predatory own little pay mucho cash grab which destroys local housing markets and creates wet paint ghost towns. But alas, it persists, and we have to stare at lines of cheap shacks or Soviet block-style complexes left vacant on off-seasons or occupied by flightless gray birds who only fly south because some Iowa idiot got conned at a Rumanda Inn on a Tuesday looking for a free golf bag. Arguably, these apps have created more of a problem, but I figured it'd be better. Also getting out of timeshares. My parents bought one in the late 90s and actually did get a lot of use out of it. They went religiously for 1 week per year. Now that they have passed, my brother and I are struggling to get rid of it. Neither of us wants it, and the timeshare company keeps acting like we have to accept it as inheritance, although we know we don't have to. Also, predatory companies that pretend they'll get rid of the timeshare but really just drain some extra money to point you toward the things you have to do yourself anyway. The magic word is deed back. Basically, you can sign the deed back over to the development and walk away. The trick is first finding the department that handles this and then convincing them that you really want to do this. When I tried to do this, the deed back department first really tried to convince me to find someone else to take it over. Maybe you can sell it on eBay, give it to a friend or relative. But I insisted that nobody I know would want it. More like I'd refuse to inflict it on anyone I cared about, and they relented. Even then, I had to stay on top of it because the paperwork kept getting lost, and I had to call every so often to follow up. Eventually, I did get rid of it though. Hot single ladies in your area. They are there, they just don't want you. 80+ hour work weeks for understaffed tourism towns around the world. Paying convenience charges when booking tickets online. Lobbying. In theory, having someone whose job it is to advocate for and explain technical hyper-specific subjects to non-technical politicians who need to understand the laws they're enacting on often highly technical subjects is a good thing. The campaign finance incentives attached to that lobbying, however, is another thing entirely. Yeah, any company that would be negatively affected by a law would be incentivized to provide information to lawmakers. I'm not sure why a financial donation needs to be a part of that. Why insurance goes up after an incident. The fact that you give regular monthly installments is the intent that they will save you the hassle in case of a problem. Insurance should only go up after an accident you were at fault in. Good insurance will do that. My wife had an accident with our new car about 6 months after we bought it. Someone merged into her without looking. Had about $1,200 in damage. All of it cosmetic. Our insurance covered the whole thing. We paid $3 a day for our rental because I wanted an SUV and our max was like $37 a day. And premiums did not go up. Now 18 months later, still the same. Pay for good insurance. It's not about the name, it's about the coverage you buy within the policy. Make sure you don't have bare bones insurance. We pay $110 a month for 2 drivers with ours. Peace of mind is always worth it. Payday loans. and super high-interest predatory rent-to-own furniture rental/loan things, where you end up paying like $3,000 in the end for a $500 laptop. Those are more and more illegal these days, and some top folks at predatory places have gone to jail and lost everything. Extended warranties. So many promises made, but when time comes for a claim, almost all are denied. Didn't you read the fine print where it says you must have video proof that you dedicated the object to Hera on each alternating full moon that didn't land on a Tuesday? MLMs. No, Karen, you are not going to be a millionaire with your crappy products. The thing with pyramid schemes is if someone tells you about it, you're already too low down to make any real money. Civil asset forfeiture. Literal highway robbery. Health insurance in America. I spend $600 a month to cover myself and my son and have never walked into a medical appointment without a $200 to $300 bill showing up in the mail. It seems since I can afford insurance, then I get charged more for services after the insurance company negotiates prices down. I'm a single father making $15 an hour. Insurance is more than rent and my car payment combined. Extended warranties on vehicles. Good luck getting them to pay. The manufacturer-backed extended warranties are worth the money. The rest are near worthless. Years ago, I did get a crappy one to pay for a failed transmission, but I did the tech support for the shop that was doing the repair, and the owner flat out told me if it hadn't been someone he knew, he would have given up and told the customer they needed to pay. The company asked him for an insane amount of pictures and documentation, then made him wait almost 2 weeks for their own mechanic to come to look at it, then another week to authorize the repair, and then took forever to actually pay him. USA tax-paying system. Paraphrasing, we know how much you owe, but we want you to calculate it, and you have to get it correct under the pain of prison or paying too much. Oh, and the whole process is more complicated than it needs to be because of private interests. Health insurance. My parents went to pay for some prescriptions the other day. With insurance, $250. Without insurance, $160. Could they just be like, oh, we don't actually have insurance? Or was it because insurance doesn't cover generic meds and makes them buy a specific, more important brand? So what happened was, they had a prescription called in by their doctor. They went to pick it up from a pharmacy that they had not been to before and were told it was $160. They realized this was without insurance, so they gave the pharmacy tech their insurance information, and after running the prescription through their insurance, boom! It was suddenly $250. My kid's school charges a $3 internet fee. If you want to refill their cafeteria cards via the website, if you do it in person, there's no fee. If they feel that they have to charge a fee, shouldn't it be the other way around, since if you use their website, you aren't taking up anyone's time? Don't forget the DMV and other government agencies that are also doing the same thing whenever you need to get a license, a permit, etc. If anything, it should be cheaper because they don't need to pay someone to sit there and take your cash in person or sit in an office and process paper checks. University fees. I have to not only pay for my classes and admin fees, but I also have to pay for 2 separate student union fees, a technology fee, an online processing fee, and a recreation and athletic fee, despite the fieldhouse being entirely closed due to COVID. Insurance covering less because you have dual insurance. NFTs. Charging huge fees for parking permits without spending any of that money on the maintenance of those parking spots. When I first moved into my apartment, parking was free. 2 years later, now it's $35 a month. They literally haven't changed or updated a single thing. It's just a frick you fee. I'm too late for this to be seen probably, but I'll post it anyway. I once accidentally clicked something on the internet and, unbeknownst to me, signed up for some crappy subscription for $15 a month. The subscription was basically a monthly spam email about something uninteresting that went unnoticed. It was somewhere between 6 to 12 months before I noticed I was paying this company money, as I thought it was my Wi-Fi bill showing up in my direct debit record. I googled the company name. It was a company in Macclesfield or Mansfield, if I remember correctly. Straight away, the reviews were all saying it's a scam, hard to cancel the direct debit, etc. Phoned my bank, who informed me the company was known to them but had always stayed within the law and I'd be extremely lucky to get any money refunded. Bank also said that I needed the company to stop the subscription as they couldn't do it. I found the customer service number for this company, and straight away was told by the automated voice lady that it was $1 a minute or something to be on the phone with them, which infuriated me as I was having to pay even more money to get them to stop scamming me. Anyway, I got put on hold after a minute or so of ringing. The icing on the cake was that the on-hold song was the Street's Dry Your Eyes Mate. At that point, I laughed to myself and applauded their sheer cheek. I got played well. Politicians and their families investing in the stock market. It's crazy that this is now shifting to more blatant and open because no one will enforce any consequences for any of this. I'm not sure if there's an actual name for it, but the practice of banks where they prioritize your automatic payments in order of highest to lowest so that you're more likely to overdraw earlier and then can slap on their overdrawn fees for each consecutive payment that attempts to go through. For example, you have $600 in your account and have 6 automatic payments coming out. They prioritize the $400 loan payment first, then the $120 car insurance, then $50 internet, $50 cell phone, $50 utilities, $50 renter's insurance. You now owe $90 in overdrawn fees, are late on 3 bills, and are mostly broke. If they'd have prioritized the last 5 first, then the loan payment, you'd have $280 left, a bill you're late on, and $30 in overdrawn fees. It's so scummy. Insane rent prices for houses even squatters wouldn't stay at. Medication costs. My dog had hookworm, and so my doctor recommended I get treated as well to just be safe. Pharmacy called me warning that it could cost me $2,995. Asked my doctor if there was an alternative. Was able to get an equally effective treatment for $45. Estate agents, they charge you thousands to open a door to a house so you can look around, and a couple of emails. This and insurance agents are the 2 most worthless professions in America. I haven't used a local agent in years because they're pointless middlemen. I'd argue a good insurance agent is worth their weight in gold, either for someone who doesn't have the time nor desire to understand policy intricacies, or those who have complex protection desires. Sure, you can call up Progressive and get insured in about 15 minutes, but are you adequately protected? Are you overinsured? Do you understand if you have replacement cost coverage or cash value coverage? What about the different kinds of life insurance? And then a complex claim happens. Will you want to be on the phone working with the company or have your agent push on the claims examiners? To each their own. A handful of people are comfortable cutting out the middleman, but there are plenty of people who actually get value from a local agent. Now, one could argue about the complexity of insurance, but that's a different discussion. Fake job offer scams. The PS5 collectors are still just grabbing as many as they can and make sure to sell them at a massive upcharge. This has been going on since the PS5 went onto shelves. Automatic tipping at fast food places. I mean, I get leaving a tip at a sit-down restaurant where a waiter or waitress is taking care of you, but if I go to Chipotle and get a bowl and they automatically add a 20% tip, that's a lot of money. I might consider a tip if they could at least add the cheese last so the guacamole doesn't stick to the lid. Big oof. Entering your contact info on any website. They can track and contact you with only keystrokes. You should never enter your crap online unless you know the site is secured. Convincing people if they don't give 10% of their money to rich-ass churches, they will burn in hell. News, which isn't useful or objectively true, and therefore not news but propaganda. America's privately owned prison system, which is a hub for modern-day slavery. American restaurants forcing the burden of employee wages onto their customers. Public service student loan repayment programs. Funeral homes, or to specify for the dunces among us, unethical funeral homes chasing profit at the expense of bereaved people. The amount of leeching done to grieving people just boils my blood. Pay-to-win mobile games. Legally required but not federally provided insurance. Working for the current minimum wage. I just wanted to have kept up with inflation. That is probably around $22.50 per hour. The hardest job I've ever had was my lowest paying job. Healthcare in the USA. When you work at a hospital and see the trickery that happens, you get even madder. Student debt in its current state. I know physicians who can't pay those loans off because the interest is just too high. They've been paying for 10 years and still have their original principal loan amount. Those are just 3 things that make me the most mad right now. College textbooks. We updated a figure in Chapter 8 and changed the page numbers for the 3rd edition. It costs $180. Taxes on taxes. It's incredible how many of you confuse scam for thing I just don't want to pay for because I feel entitled to it. For whatever you want free, ask yourself how that thing is getting paid for if not from you. Ski resort prices. You're telling me you close at 4 p.m. and I'm still paying $160 for a day pass? That's a half day. Naked shorting of stocks in American markets. There it is. Also the other illegal shorting methods that are used. Does gerrymandering count? That when you pay taxes on income and then you invest the already taxed income, and then you have to pay taxes again on the profits. Cable service. The business of higher education. When Uber says your ride will cost $22 to $26, then you get to your destination and they charge you $31 with zero explanation. Income tax. Qualified immunity. Adobe products. Tax preparers. I should just be told how much money I owe and pay that instead of paying someone between $65 because TurboTax isn't truly free to $200 plus. The IRS or whatever government entity knows what we owe already, and someone else trying to figure that out means that there is another possibly weak link in the chain. It really sucks that there is an entire huge industry that if we did away with it, a lot of people would be out of work, but it's still unnecessary. Norton installs a crypto miner as a feature as soon as you meet the low required specs. Now, this is already dubious, but they make a crypto wallet for you and they get 15% of what you mine. Transfer fees are of course for you. Not only will your CPU be fried in no time, but also give thought to all the people not knowing about this feature. Where will their mined coins go after the subscription is over? I swear Norton is like the Nigerian prince of antivirus. Homeopathy. Airlines selling more seats than they have. Boss babe culture. You can have it all too. You just have to make 6 figures while you're watching the kids, wake up at 4:30 to make your whole life look like an Instagram post, and don't forget to host a weekly girls' night wine soiree at your house. Don't forget to #hustle. It seems like women broke barriers into the workplace but are somehow still expected to run a flawless household with perfectly coordinated kids in tow. Thanks for watching until the end. Do you have an example you'd like to talk about? Please do so in the comments below. Then be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video is available, and stop by our channel for more videos just like this one right now. Thanks again, and see you next time.